You're listening to the Life in General podcast with Tom and Jaye. An hour of informative commentary on today's headlines, current events, and what's going on around the world and around the corner. And now, here are your hosts, Tom and Jaye Darden.
All right, recording has started. Mic check, sound 1, 2, 3. Hey everybody, welcome to the Life in General podcast here with Tom and Jaye, coming at you live here from sunny Ecuador and Hendersonville, Tennessee. This should be episode 49 if our count is correct, and I haven't lost my mind too much from this previous week's shenanigans. So we're going to start this hour off the same way we do every time and ask the man of the hour down there in Ecuador how he is and see what's going on. So hey Dad, how are you?
I'm doing very well. We're just motoring right along here, getting ready for our visit to the Tennessee studios at some point. So there you go.
I was going to say, we'll have to get you in studio here at some point in time, kind of wig people out, because that was still one of the best episodes was being down there on location in Playas, Ecuador. People kind of, lost their minds, and I looked a little more red than I usually do, being that close to the sun. So that stuff was pretty wild. But yeah, we're up here enjoying this, April weather. As we know, Tennessee, you never know what you're going to get, right?
That's right.
And trying to figure that out. So we are excited for the trip up here that you're going to have. And we appreciate all of our lovely subscribers and listeners out there for putting up with us for as long as you have. It's almost gone on a full year. That's something that it's kind of a fun little feather in the cap. We'll see what the next 52 episodes have to offer after this, and we'll.
That's right.
We may blow it out for the 1 year mark, or we might just be consistent and be regular like we all wish we were, and just keep things as they are. So
we all wish we were, yeah.
Yeah, that's exactly right. Trying to stay regular, especially in our old age. Me, a ripe old age of almost 35. So that is
it. It was interesting because on April the 13th, we have been here a year. On April the 13th,
wow. There you go.
That was when when
you
moved.
Planted the proverbial flag, eh?
Yes, that is correct, eh?
Mm-hmm.
Yes, for the first time.
Wow.
Yeah. That's pretty interesting to have been here a year.
Did you ever think that you would make it a full year down there when you first got there?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I didn't have any doubts that we'd make it a full year. But, it's interesting because when we first got here, they still were doing COVID stuff. And our first 2 weekends here, they were locked down from 6 o'clock Friday evening until 5 o'clock Monday morning. So, and they're real serious about their lockdown and shit down here.
So, oh, they're not playing.
Yeah.
Mm-mm.
Yeah, it was interesting, but they've loosened up a whole bunch.
Oh, well, for sure. And it's something too, like, we can talk about it until we're blue in the face, but it just changes so much so quickly. But we'll start this off with our first topic here, something that I found was pretty interesting, and it looks almost like it's a little bit maybe in revenge of certain things, possibly. Why don't you talk to us about the Texas governor? Would you say Greg Abbott is his name?
Yes.
Sending immigrants via bus to what I'm assuming is Washington, D.C.
Yes.
So fill us in on what I can only imagine is a very non-hate-filled, revenge-filled plan of a red state governor who has nothing but our best interests at heart.
Yeah, that's exactly right. He just decided instead of Texas having to bear the burden of the illegals crossing the border, that he should share that burden. Now, Texas is paying for this, but they're putting them on a bus, and their one bus load, I know for sure, has gone to D.C., and they pull up right there in front of the Capitol or wherever they're parked, and they let them off. But my understanding is that they're getting a free phone, and a stipend, a per diem of money, and they're just going to be put out into the population until their asylum paperwork is done, which you'll probably never see any of them ever again. But they just sent the second busload to D.C., which I think that's pretty cool, man. I think it's pretty cool because why should Texas have to bear the burden? You won't close the border and you won't secure it and you won't do what's right. Okay, well, we can fix that, because the next thing you're going to see is busloads of immigrants coming into Florida, like from Cuba and point south. Okay. They're going to bus them to Delaware. They've already started talking about
I'm in Delaware.
Busing them to Joe Biden's home state of Delaware. Slow Joe. What a clown. What a freaking clown.
I don't necessarily enjoy the thought of sending a possible Cuban, possible this person to Delaware, where like the climate alone would be such a culture shock that we're supposed to try to, in my mind, of course, that's a very scary place, to treat folks well,
right,
when they are seeking asylum, seeking a betterment for possibly themselves, their family, and things of that nature. Now, to that end, I don't think that the border state should necessarily put up with all that cost. However, okay, the deregulation.
Hold on a second.
So, however, you can't have your cake and eat it too. What do I mean by that? We can't say, okay, do not regulate us, do not impose anything on us. We're a state. We are like this close from seceding. See if we can put it somewhere you can actually see the thing. I chose a terrible color shirt for this. And, don't tread on us. Don't mess with us. Don't do this. Oh, wait a minute. Why are we bearing this stuff alone?
Right.
So, cake, no eat. You can't have both ways.
Cake?
Yeah.
Somebody say cake?
Can I have some cake?
Cake. Yeah.
So, to that end, it seems as though, of course, it's politics, right? So, it's just shenanigans all the time.
Absolutely.
And these are nothing but moves that are going to say, okay, well, what happened to Miguel, who's trying to just hop over the border, find a job, send money back to his family, his wife and children or whatever, in whatever South American, possibly North American country, depending on where they're at along the line there, right, and say, you're going to ship me to Washington, D.C., where, isn't that a pretty, violent, heavy place? Not the capital itself, unless on certain days of the year, but
you're not securing the border. Miguel came across illegally.
Yeah, so Texas, being next to that border, why don't they make their own thing there?
He doesn't get the choice of where he's going. If you're going to sneak into the country illegally, then you're going to go where we send you.
So hold up.
That's just how that works. They're trying to finish building the wall that was already paid for. All the materials were paid for. They had everything set to go, and they didn't have much wall left to build when they stopped it. And Texas is trying to pick that back up and finish it, is my understanding. Now, I don't know if they ever will or not. But again, why should Texas have to bear the burden of the construction, the labor cost of the construction?
Okay. Now, to that end, that's a great point. But let's look at it from this perspective too. Let's say folks want to come across the border both ways. They have to go to Texas first to possibly cross the border. We've been there on mission trips, right, down to Mexico, saying, hey,
yes,
this is the place to go because you're next to this, next to that. So do we tax Texas more because of their proximity to that border and any sort of gains it would cost or gain them, I would say, and say, oh, you got border tax, so we're going to tax you a little more because of your commerce being next to a neighboring country which means you might have more imports and exports, which means you're going to have more people crossing the border for leisure, business, and everything. So do we tax more down there because of that, because of proximity, and say, okay, well, we're going to impose this on you? It's going to help do two things. One, it's going to help build that wall that you want so much, but it's also going to say, well, this is the government. Like, everybody pays taxes for every other person's thing, right? To a degree. And so we say, cool, well, you can help pay for it, and we'll help pay for it by having the nation pay for it. Because if that's the case, like, does that seem like it's fair to you versus instead of saying, well, why aren't they getting any help?
Are you gonna tax Arizona and New Mexico and California too, because they're border states?
I would say, however, like whatever state's touching, yeah, go for it.
Okay, well, as long as they're fair across the board.
But you also got to look at it too, landmass, right? Texas, the entire bottom of Texas, right, covers just about, it's connected, right? So do you make it a percentage wise of how much is touching, how much a landmass is there?
You're punishing our state because of where we're located? Is that what you're doing?
So what are they doing for?
What do you got in the glass, man?
Orange juice. Good. I'm sorry, apple juice.
Look good.
It's a scenario where, let's look at states that are next to water, right? Okay. We look and saying, hey, are you going to punish us because of our location? Well, they help. The government helps when it comes to natural disasters and stuff, but that's not to say that, and this is just a random example. I mean, you could go back and forth with this literally all day long, because let's say, hey, FEMA needs to help out this place. Well, okay, these people became homeless very quickly, or they need loans for their small business repairs, etc., where somewhere else doesn't get that. So it kind of comes back to kind of like the rights talk, right, where you have positive and negative rights. I can't do this to you because of rights versus, hey, you deserve this and here's why, sort of thing. So
I got you.
I think there's legislation in there, or there's a peace talk to a degree, that it would make sense, and we would say, hey, let's not go too crazy here, right? But sending a group of immigrants who we assume came over illegally, you don't know their paperwork or their story. We're just being, fed, hey, illegal. And it's like, okay, maybe they're in the interim of their process and they're illegal right now because technically there's a freaking waiting period, right? You had a waiting period going down in Ecuador where it was one of those, you're on a visa for a time, you're on your passport, and then you had to swap and then do this. So it's something to say, okay, well, we're going to take Texans' money, ship these people out, give them a phone, and I would love to know if they got an iPhone or an Android or a Samsung or what. That would be hilarious.
Yeah.
These are the facts that matter. Did they give him an iPhone or did they give him an Android?
Whose plan are they on?
Yeah. Are they AT&T or Verizon or T-Mobile? What's happening here, right? Do you understand how smart it is to give them a phone? Like the implication of that?
Oh, I understand the motivation behind all of it. It's to get more voters in to be able to keep control of the country. That's the whole goal, man.
No. The point is the phone, the subtleness of the phone.
Okay.
What does that do?
Yeah. Oh, opens everything up.
It does, but it also allows us to track them.
Sure.
It also allows for them to be altered to a degree, because as everyone knows, our phone are little things that keep us connected to the world and to everyone. Right. Changes you very, very slightly over time. And it works. And it's almost addictive, right? I mean, look at, like, comment, and subscribe below if you can't live without your phone for more than 20 minutes. 30 minutes, an hour. And no one gives a crap.
You don't give a damn if I go into town for mine with 2 or 3 hours and not have it, right?
we've discussed this, though. You have somebody else who has a phone, so you are not truly disconnected. But the point being is, folks who are on their phone more on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, playing games, solving puzzles, doing whatever, it's warped us. And the fact that you mentioned, because it's an important fact that you mentioned, they're giving them a phone and giving them a stipend. That's incredible.
Yes.
You want to talk about changing the game up, saying, hey, I don't know if you've ever watched The Kingsman.
No.
British movie. Well, it's not really a British movie, but it's about the supervillain. Spoiler alerts. Spoils. So I warned you. In The Kingsman, they give out free, basically like micro SD cards or chips to give free phone service to people. And everyone lost their minds, right? Everyone's getting one, mass scale, yada, yada. They gave technically free internet and free phone to everybody who had a phone, and you just put the chip in, right? Well, in the end, that they flipped a switch, turned on a signal, and then everybody who had that started killing each other, right? Because it would make them go crazy. And so that very much in my wacky mind makes me think, oh no, it's happening. Like they're giving everybody access to that stuff, and it's just crazy, man. So yeah, definitely kind of wild there. But interesting topic. Yes. Is it the right move? I don't know, because we talked earlier about several episodes ago. You were saying the same thing, things coming to Chattanooga via planes and stuff, and we busing places and everything. And the point being there is, should we retaliate in kind? Right? That's kind of one of the overall messages here too, is should we say, you have wronged us in this way, eat it, right? And then retaliate very much in the same way. Or oftentimes there are two paths you can take. One would call one the higher road, and the other possibly would be the lower road. So do you want to rise up and try to bring everybody with you, or do you want to, in this case, possibly lower yourself to the other group and then get in there and in the muck with them, right? Like stoop to their level, as they say, and make it something where it's like fight fire with fire, where, being civilized apes as we are, we could possibly do other means of this, that, and the other. Now, they may think that's exactly what it is by giving them a phone, giving them money, and sending them somewhere else, because then they can start charging up a voter base, because every day on their phone they could say, vote blah, start giving them sort of mental cues and whatnot. But silliness, that stuff's just wild.
And they'll go to the states where you had mentioned in the previous podcast where there's no registration.
Right.
Lots of places. Get in line and pull the handle, man. Yeah. Just get in line and pull the handle. Pull the handle that we tell you to. And
I'm still very much on the fence of that sort of scenario where vote, yes, no, registration, no registration, because voting is your power that you have as a person in an area, not necessarily even a citizen. However, we could go into we could do a history lesson on voting, and it probably wouldn't be a very good episode. People probably wouldn't like it very much, just because of the implications, ramifications, etc., etc. But it's still part of me. Part of that little piece inside of me is thinking, okay, they're trying to change how things happen in the area they are in. So there you go. Like,
okay,
but now to that end, you got to have rules. If you don't have rules, that's what separates excuse me, humans from non-humans. So kind of wild. But one thing to look at as well, kind of segueing in here to our next topic, there is the Convention of States Action. So you brought this up to us, and homeboy here does not know much about that at all. Do you want to shed a little more light on that?
Okay. Well, I'm gonna read this. Okay, so you'll know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
Okay. You've always known that Joe Biden is an incompetent authoritarian at heart, but now there's no denying it. King Biden's insane budget proposal would spend taxpayer money on 131 new lawyers to prosecute January 6 protesters, send millions for defense attorneys for illegal migrants, and impose new unconstitutional wealth tax to steal money from Americans before they even make it. Okay, the founders of our country didn't take kindly to kings, which is why they gave us a way to push back. Today, there are too many abuses to count. Our economy is reeling. Inflation is out of control. We've lost our position of power on the world stage. Food and gas shortages are coming, and Biden's public appearances are a national embarrassment. Okay, the only way to rein in the tyranny facing our nation today is to call a convention of states, COS, to bring back power to the people. Okay. When an Article 5 Convention of States is called, the states will be able to propose constitutional amendments limited to imposing term limits and physical restraints on the federal government and limiting the Fed's power and jurisdiction. Okay, that's given individual states. You were talking about why we got to pick on Texas. That's given individual states the right to make their rules. Here's the best part. This effort is well underway already. It takes 34 states to call a convention, and there's 19 state legislators that are already on board. So because the state legislators actually live in their districts, when they hear from constituents on an issue, it's a big deal. So stop bitching and stop complaining and call your state legislator in your area and tell them to put forth a convention of states to stop that. It stops the federal government from having so much control on the state itself. Like they can't control Texas and the border and all that kind of stuff when it's the state is in control of it themselves.
Right. So we're talking about that to a degree, and then you said, okay, well, why are they leaving it up to Texas to take care of their own shit? Well, that's what's gonna seems like it's gonna go down if you get the Convention of States sort of thing to happen, is because they're gonna say, okay, you don't want any regulations, then you don't get any help.
Okay.
Is that how we want it to be? Or
I guess they got all that figured out, but Texas is just, Greg Abbott's just sending them up there. Just it's all hey, look at me kind of deal.
Sure. Oh yeah.
It's like you said, it's all political, and it's twofold. It gets them out of here, puts them on a bus.
Right.
And they interviewed one of the guys from Venezuela, and he goes, well, it was a 30-hour trip, but they gave us food and they gave us drinks, and they, what they do, man? They cruise you in a tour bus, and you got to go for 30 hours to DC from San Juan or wherever that. Yeah. Could you imagine? They had to stop every so often. Yeah. Well, you don't know how many people got off the bus and never got back on, man, unless they were keeping a count or whatever, which they don't do anything right. So I don't know why they would think they would keep account of how many people are on the bus. If they started trickling off the bus on the way up there at each rest stop, that'd be that many less they had to deal with. So
I got you.
Yeah. I just you were talking about a state succeeding.
Yeah. Oh, well, I mean, I think that not that it's correct, but I know there's talk. Yeah.
So I mean, they're talking about it. Yeah, they're talking about it. And you be able to propose term limits for your legislators. Yeah, that'll get people's attention. You're not going to get to stay up there for 40 freaking years in Congress and make millions of dollars. If your state's able to put a term limit on you, then you need to work for your state instead of working for yourself. So, yeah,
that's kind of interesting. Looking at the Convention of States, I'm seeing a little bit of kind of what it is and like what you were reading and stuff. it would be interesting. And I understand that if the states need to come together to make changes happen for the actual betterment of everyone, that's great. However, we need to look at what occurred over there in Europe, right? Now, granted, there's language barriers, there's country barriers, etc. Then they had the European Union, right? Well, then you have people who are possibly seceding, much like Brexit, right? So Brexit happened, they left and whatnot, and then it's kind of been a nightmare when it comes to trade and all that stuff. So when these things occur, and when you're fed this information, are you being told about the possible ramifications of these in the negative light versus the positive? Because, and much like I said a little bit earlier, where if you take away the power of the federal government, which is fine, I mean, to each their own, that also takes away their ability to help well, right? Or regulate to such a degree where if you left it up to just the states, well, okay, at that point, let's say we have some people who are in power that it's hard to unseat the barnacle, right, from the boat, and then things just go to hell in a handbasket, and then you have instances where, well, they're not regulated by anybody other than the people, and however, they do so well, or I would say not necessarily well, but they're they've put things into a perspective of, or a pigeonhole, I'll say, where you can't unseat someone very easily. They're backed too heavily by corporations. They're buying votes, etc. And so I don't want to say it would become a wasteland, because I don't think that's necessarily true, but it would make things pretty wild, right? And we would need to look at it from, okay, we see the positives, right? Term limits would be amazing. You know, a 10-year term limit for somebody, I think, is very fair, and it lets you come in and try to make yours. But the point would be is, hey, make the difference while you're here. And I know they would say, well, you can't make a difference in blah blah blah. Like, yeah, you can. Yeah, you can.
You can try anyway.
Yeah, right. Yeah. You can at least tee it up for others to get things set in motion, right? Well, that's the thing. They're trying.
Well, if a state is self-governed, the state is self-governing itself, then think about this. Somewhere like Texas, if they were self-governing, they could start drilling for oil and start the pumps again.
Okay. Now,
so all of a sudden, you've got you're starting to head towards energy independence. Now, I don't know how crappy Texas would be to deal with when you went to buy oil from them. You know, that's just another faux there of the convention. You know, same thing in like North Dakota or Montana, where the pipeline is.
Yeah,
you know, y'all going to crank that back up, and you're going to give us this money because that pipeline flows through our state. So I see where it could get pretty shitty, but I could also see where you don't have as much government overreach. Maybe you won't have as much waste. I don't know. Or maybe you might have more waste. I don't know. It's an interesting call there.
It is. And I've seen that before slightly. I think we might have mentioned this, at least maybe in passing. But I've read or listened to the audiobook. What's it called? Like the Big Five, I think, is a big, like kind of an interesting book. Let me see here. Let's see, disasters. So, like, there's something called like the Major Five or the Big Five or something to that effect. And what it did essentially was it talked about this sort of thing, where it talked from the other perspective of how, like, regulation from a higher level makes everybody essentially like, it helps out overall. Reason being was, one of the things that they were talking about was the National Weather Service. Okay. They were talking about the National Weather Service, kind of near the end of the book, about if that's not regulated, okay, then you're going to have a scenario where they can charge you in every single state, like whomever owns that power, right? Whomever owns those towers, radar, etc., they can go to the moon and back when it comes to charges, because they can angle it in such a way to say, well, don't you want little Timmy and Tommy and Susie to be protected and know about natural disasters? Because it's coming. We don't have to tell you. It's not up, because there's no National Weather Service anymore. It's
right.
Okay, there's a Nevada, there's a Texas, there's a blah, 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 blah. We are no longer obligated to assist you with that because we're not regulated. Okay, well, now the tornado's coming. Okay, well, luckily a lot of Midwesterners and stuff kind of know the signs, but it's a scenario where they're very much could say, oh, we didn't know. I was like, well, were you paying for the service? No. Why does that kind of service have to be paid for? Why aren't you telling us? Oops. So, a lot of things like that. Another one, too, was like nuclear waste was kind of an interesting little point, like a big chapter in that, because that is regulated by the National Energy Department. Nuclear waste is, right? And also also the missiles, right? So if we start to break things up like that, is it going to be that everybody, like every state, we're going to have to divide out the nukes? We're going to have to...
That's a good question.
Right. You have to divide out this, divide out that. Or another big thing, too, is legislation on what can and can't a person do in terms of rights. I mean, you could very well go back to some of these states and say, we don't like the look of the way things are right now, so we're going to go backwards a little bit. What? Now, states are pretty self-governing themselves, and states have constitutions themselves, for the most part and whatnot.
Right.
But now I would say they're pretty similar to the ones that are over with the federal government. But, like, what is it? Aerospace regulations as well. Do you want a scenario where airplanes aren't regulated as heavily, so the statistics of crashing goes up more because they aren't held?
No. No.
Like, knock on wood. So it's something where those national regulations are something we need to have the utmost reverence for, because in the end, it's going to affect people's lives and whether or not they continue.
Right.
So, interesting point for sure. I think it's like, to make things happen quickly, I think that's great. However, you gotta take that one and become a neurosurgeon, because if you snip the wrong cord, it's over. Like,
right,
it's over.
Your state will bleed to death.
Oh, man, it'll be insane. Yeah. And it's like, no, you be careful.
Yeah.
Because holy smokes, man.
I think it's interesting, though, about states and mask mandates and vaccine mandates and shit like that. Yeah. And they were going to make the decision on whether to extend the mask mandate for air travel.
Yeah.
Well, they decided to extend it for 15 days. And it's not funny to me at all, because it starts the day I get on a plane.
I think they figured out, they've watched this podcast, they figured out the logistics, because of course they're watching us all the time, right? And then they said, we're going to get him. We're going to get Tom.
They did, because they started the day I get on the plane in Ecuador, and they end it the day I get on the plane to come back to Ecuador, get on a plane in the U.S. to come back. So they started the 2 days I fly is the beginning and the end of the air travel mask mandate.
Silly.
Unless they extend it again in, planes and trains and automobiles and shit like that. So,
that's it.
Yeah. Yeah, I just thought that was pretty interesting. Also, I saw where Amazon is adding a 5% fuel and inflation surcharge to your orders now. How
That's gonna be
about that?
wild. Yeah, I
How
mean,
about that?
it's something like it doesn't surprise me really, and honestly, I'm the more surprising I am about it is that they told you straight up, or
Took
it was
them
figured out.
so yeah, took them so
Right.
long, and then they told you about it. Yeah.
Oh yeah, because
Yeah.
when I look at the fuel surcharges that are coming in just in the industry, excuse me, it's insanity. I mean, a 60-something% fuel surcharge is ridiculous because
Well, explain what a fuel surcharge is to people,
now
if you
when
don't mind. If you don't mind.
no, for sure. So when we talk about a fuel surcharge, what's happening there is, or let's break it down to what a surcharge is, right? You have your normal charges and fees when it comes to purchasing things, whether or not be on an order or something to that effect. So a surcharge is going to be something that is it's an additional charge to make this thing happen. So, and of course, looking at the dictionary definition, it's going to be an additional charge or payment, a mark printed on a postage stamp. That's not what this is. Or it's an exacting an additional charge or payment for something. Now, so extra charge. What this means is it's outside of the normal realm of what you would expect. So, and then it can also be labeled. So a surcharge, a lot of the times when you are doing business internationally, well, everything costs money, right? Space,
Right.
timing, etc., and fuel. So fuel is expensive. And it has been that way for eternity, right? Fuel, because your plane's not flying without fuel, your truck's not moving without fuel, your body doesn't work without fuel, right? Everything needs fuel, okay? So a fuel surcharge, just some few years ago, was small, super small, right? Like much smaller than what it was, 40 to 60% now is saying, okay, when you are doing these charges, and it's oftentimes going to come at a fuel surcharge is going to be when things are being shipped via a truck, because that's more of like, hey, in line with we're charging you for fuel, because that can fluctuate. I mean, just like everything can, very quickly and very rapidly on a day-to-day basis. So they set it at a percentage and say, okay, it costs this much fuel based on the mileage and the weight and, et cetera. And so they come out and say your surcharge is X percent of this. We're going to forward the cost to you X percent. And so in this fuel surcharge, I'm surprised with Amazon that for one, it's only 5%, because you got to understand, like, Amazon now has become something where, like, they're playing with the figures to make sure you're still going to buy it, because almost everything on Amazon you could get somewhere else, just about, unless they bought the company.
Right.
So they have to make it convenient and slightly cheaper, right?
Okay.
Because you're looking for not only cost, but opportunity cost as well. Bring it to my door, put it in my mouth, spoon feed me, from the heavenly hand of Jeff Bezos, just, So to that end, that's what the fuel surcharge is, and that happens with truckers on every shipment you do. And it's been going up and up and up with inflation, with higher fuel prices. It just gets bigger. And what's exciting is it doesn't go backwards very easily, right? Excuse me. When they up one of these charges, that's it. Why would they want to go back if...
Yeah, when they give them a healthy boost.
So the big thing is this. If you're making more money, okay, you're making X amount percent profit, you then you have to raise your prices to continue to make X amount of percent profit. Who in their right mind, once the cost went back down, if the people are still going to pay for it, why would you make it any cheaper?
Right. That makes sense.
It's just, I mean, of course, a business is in the business to make money. That's their purpose, right? But things like gas that you can't see the fluctuation just instantaneously, right? Because a lot of people, you can tell most likely what you paid for gas 1 week to the next. But when it comes to like bread, movies, this, that, and the other, people I don't think pay as much attention. You have some people who are going to mark it all down, mark all the prices, and keep up with it, and they can tell you the exact charges. But for the most part, people are just going to exist and not realize that the frog, albeit us, we are the frog in this pot, and eventually it boils up to the point where you just, that's it. So, and the temperature never goes back down. So,
wow. Yeah. Well, I saw that about Amazon, and I thought it was interesting because I've had a couple of people ask me, to bring things back for them, and it's like, no.
You say no. I throw my head back in laughter, looking at the pile of like 50 things on the table. Yeah, okay. All right.
Yeah.
I'm gonna out you now. You better tell them not to watch this episode, all right?
Yeah, that's right. That's right. No, I ain't bringing you nothing back. Nothing back.
They'll tell them like, what is it? Like Judge Schmales. You'll get nothing and like it.
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
But
I ain't your mule. I'm not your mule.
Yeah, mule. Indeed.
Yeah.
Comment down below if that's what a mule sounds like, and if not, then we'll go from there.
So Bob lost his phone. They're working on the band. This is off track, but I'm gonna tell you anyway. They're working on the Plius Rocks. There you go. Is the band he plays in down here? Bo and Bob and Doris and Jonathan and Gallo, and so they're working on a Queen melody and working on harmony, and that's what Bob does, is kind of blends in harmony together and stuff like that. So long story short, Bob normally puts his phone down when he's riding between his legs to that's just where he holds on to it. But he was carrying a keyboard. He had a keyboard across his lap, and he was in Bo's 3-wheeler.
Oh, okay.
And so Bo was giving him a ride. Well, he couldn't have it. He couldn't sit on it, so he put it down beside him here. And then when he got home, his phone wasn't there, so it had fell out of the 3-wheeler somewhere between band practice and his home.
Right.
So he had to go buy another phone the other day, and I thought that was pretty different, because again, I don't take mine with me unless it's an absolute necessity. If I go into town by myself, I will, so I don't get stuck, with no phone and have a flat tire or something. And
right.
You don't speak the language, you don't have a phone, you can't call anybody, you don't know how to talk to anybody, so you need to fix all that. So
that's true.
So I take mine with me when I go in by myself, which is rare, but I do every now and then. So,
well, I mean, it happens. But
yes, it does.
That, well, hopefully, Bo, out there listening, hopefully you're enjoying your 3-wheeler. That looks like a wild contraption. If I have some photos of it, I'll see if I can put them up there.
Yeah, it looks like a little miniature fire truck. It needs a ladder down the side or something.
Meep, meep, meep. Yeah.
But he's got Lori ordered some badass helmets, and they've got like 1945 bomber goggles on them.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah. It's kind of like Snoopy wears.
Yeah.
Big goggles. The big goggles that Snoopy wears. And I said, man, I ain't seen any of those goggles in forever. And they're tinted on the front, but they're not. They're cut. The glass is cut at an angle. They're not tinted on the sides, but they're tinted on the front. And they come with the helmet. Yeah, it's pretty neat. Helmet and goggles, $40.
As I say, it's important to not have shit whipping your eyes and stuff. Yeah,
it's very, very cheap, and it's the whole big goggle thing that they can put around their eyes, so no dirt or anything gets in them. We looked at when Pat was in the States. She went to Goodwill and found 2 Schwinn bicycle helmets.
Okay,
and they were both brand new for like $5 a piece.
Wow.
So she picked them up in case our helmets get stolen or get broken or whatever happens. Yeah. And so you don't have to wear a helmet in town on when you're driving something that's electric, but on the
Via Data,
the main highway, you have to wear some type of head protection.
Okay.
Safety. You have to have some type of safety protection on that highway.
That makes sense.
Yeah, trust me, I got pulled over twice for no helmet.
Yeah, there you go.
And I said, I don't have to wear a helmet. I wasn't being ugly. I said, this is electric. He said, this is the Via Data. It's a major highway. And so it's a provincial highway. It's not like a state or something like that.
Oh, I got you. That makes sense.
Look, hey, look who's here. Look, I can't get a hold of him.
Well, there you go.
Look who's here.
Oh, my goodness.
This is Tucker.
Hello, Tucker.
Hey, Tucker.
No, yeah. No.
He doesn't know what to do. He said, I've never seen myself in the
Yeah, I was going to say, he don't know what's happening
camera
here.
like that again. That's right.
There you
He's
go.
about 5 weeks old, 6 weeks old.
Wow.
Yeah. Yeah. Tucker. That way, if he's not acting right, we can substitute. That's what somebody told us last night. They said, yeah, you can substitute letters for his name when he's acting up or something.
Perfect. There you go. Yeah. Modular name, indeed. So
that's right.
That's right. Wild. Okay. Well, hard to segue from cute little puppy to let's talk about death. Let's hop in there. Segues, people. We don't know what they are. We had an awesome viewer want us to discuss and chime in down below on the comment section, whether or not be YouTube, Facebook, etc. Text me, tell me how much we're crazy about the death penalty. We talked about this in some length some time ago, roughly around in between episodes 30 and 40-ish. And I think we joked about it mildly when we talk about Robin Harrison, right? I mean, we have fun, him skipping lunch and talking about like 2 at a time, that sort of thing. But it's a pretty serious topic, and it's something where there's a reverence when people know their time's coming up. And it's like, hey, right? Right. So I think you were on the end of possibly being for it. And it's something where that, to each their own, and that's totally fine. So, and we had joked about it a little bit where I made the reference to The Office saying, let one innocent man die, but like 1,000 men go free, essentially saying we get it wrong. I mean, we're human beings, right? And It's something where what do you think should qualify for that sort of punishment there? So if you are on the side of that, I mean, it's fair, and some people just make the wrong choices. So what do you think would possibly constitute that being okay?
Well, we talked about that, and I've asked several people their views on the death penalty.
Sure.
And, some people are an eye for an eye and a tooth for a tooth. But why doesn't it, and this is a couple of things that I brought up to this person. Mm-hmm. It's like, do you remember the girl that ran over the 2 sheriff's deputies out in Wilson County after she stole the car in Knoxville?
Oh, wow. Okay.
And they were laying the spike strips down and to stop her. Mm-hmm. And she ran over both of them and killed them.
Oh my! Okay.
Why did she not go to the front of the line for the death penalty?
Okay,
I don't get that. Now Texas has instituted a new
a speed
legislation.
Yeah,
a new legislation where if you commit a violent crime with a weapon and there's 3 credible witnesses, that's right, three credible witnesses, you go to the front of the line for the death penalty. If there's 3 people that saw you commit the crime, they got 3 witnesses that are credible. And, you said, well, if, some people could get together and set your ass up, well, maybe so. But that's not the point we're making. The point we're making is who's going to die from the death penalty, and it's like it's a pretty different situation, because if you knowingly commit a crime, know you're wrong. It's like driving drunk.
Well, so that's like intent, right?
I've done it. I'm not proud of it. I've done it, and I'm very fortunate that I didn't hurt anybody or hurt myself.
Yeah.
But I knowingly drove drunk. I've learned, not to do that, but What if I had hit somebody? I knew I was drunk when I got in the car and hit somebody and killed them. I knew I was wrong. What are you going to, is it better to make me spend the rest of my life in jail and suffer every day getting up this is an example.
Yeah.
When we were in the motorcycle club, there was a brother that worked for a towing company. Okay. And he was getting off work and his daughter called him and said, "Hey, I'm broke down on I-40 right outside of Nashville, just the other side of Stewart's Ferry." So he called dispatch and he said, "I'll go get her. Don't worry about it. I'll go get her and take care of it." He was helping his daughter on the side of the road when he was hit by a drunk driver and killed right in front of his daughter.
Wow.
There's a cross over there on the road right now.
Mm-hmm.
There sure is. There's a cross over there right now. And so you knowingly got in the car and drove drunk and you hit this man and killed him who was just out there changing a tire or whatever he was doing for the daughter.
Sure.
And and you hit him and killed him. This is a second, whatever I'm trying to say, example.
Sure. Mm-hmm.
I can't think of her name, but the female police officer pulled over to help somebody.
Yeah.
And the two ladies are standing between the cars, and the truck driver said somebody cut him off, and he came over, hit the squad car, and crushed the two ladies in between the two cars.
Yeah.
Now, the lady lived, and the police officer died. I think they should have took that guy out and shot him the next day. That's just me. No, there's no time for that kind of stuff. Because in the state of Tennessee, you should have been going this way in your truck, away from the emergency vehicle, instead of anywhere close to it. They upped that in Tennessee from a $250 fine to the $500 fine when the last Tennessee Highway Patrolman was hit and killed on the side of the highway.
So the reason why I'm chuckling internally in this is thinking like I'm living in Tom Darden's world here for a moment and think to myself, if you make any mistakes that end up taking the life of anybody else, it's over. Your life and their life are over.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Perfect. So, all right. When does that start and stop? And the reason why I ask that is because you've made the mistake of getting into a car inebriated, haven't we all? It just didn't turn out poorly. I mean, sometimes it probably did, but anywho, it didn't get to that point, right? So where do we draw the line saying drunk driving, die, this, die, that? Because you're going to end up with nobody left, right? And the thing with the death penalty,
except for law-abiding citizens.
Okay. When's the last time you sped?
On my scooter?
Yeah.
It ain't happening, baby. I haven't sped on it because it won't go fast enough to.
When is the last time you've been on the scooter and done something you shouldn't have?
Well, Pat won't let me because I tried to.
Okay. Yeah. But my point is, we are breaking the laws that are set up by our peers or possibly older generations all the time.
Right.
Probably breaking the law right now. Okay, if it's law-abiding citizens, then listen, Death Wish, Don Bronson or whomever. It's like, wait, hold up, just a little bit, because eventually you're going to get to the point where it's going to be fucking Judge Dredd out there, and it's going to say, and it's like, whoa, Judge, jury, executioner, that should not be in the power of one person, right? But that's what it would tend to lead to if we say, okay, someone made a mistake. When I look at the death penalty, I'm thinking about intent, right? That's the difference between first degree, second degree, third degree, murder, manslaughter, homicide, whatever. It's intent, right? Do you go out with a plan? Does something happen in a heat of passion? Does somebody go out and purposely do something? And it's like, okay.
Okay. Since you brought that up, what about sexual assault or rape?
What about it? I think it's fucking terrible.
It was intentional. It was intentional, and we caught, Johnny Two Feathers over here. We caught him through DNA and through facial recognition and through witness, recognition. It was intent. You physically harm somebody, and they'll never, ever forget it.
Okay.
Or get over it.
What if they said yes first, but go back on it?
What are you going to do with him? What are you going to do with him?
All right. What happens if... This is a very fun what-if game here.
Yeah.
Let's go back and say, okay, well, what if this assault came up because somebody had second thoughts? Wasn't assault at first, right? What do you do then?
Area. I'm talking about definitely. I'm talking about.
There are no absolutes.
There are no gray areas.
There are no absolutes.
It's a black or white.
No,
it's yes
no,
or no.
no.
It's right or wrong.
You sound like a Sith. There are no absolutes.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. There's no.
Yeah, the lightning going. Yeah.
Yeah. Woo.
Point being
Holy
is
smoke,
right
man.
now. That was something too. Is our nonviolent crimes, should we have capital punishment? That was another kind of bleed into this, right? Is okay. You didn't. I mean, obviously, sexual assault and rape are violent crimes, right?
Right.
But to that end, is there anything that would be worthy of capital punishment? Well, according to our lovely internet, you have a few things actually that are kind of wild. Treason, espionage. Then you have large-scale drug trafficking. Or attempted murder, right? It could be something where you were plotting something, right? And you were trying to murder a witness, a juror, or a court officer, right? Let's say a court case is about to go down.
It's like the drug dealer.
Yeah, sure.
The drug distributor. You know, if they catch the guy, they catch Johnny Freddie, whatever. Joey Bag of Donuts.
Tommy Two Tones. Yeah.
Yeah, they catch Joey Bag of Donuts with 2,000 oxy. They know you're a distributor. They know you're killing people by giving them those or selling them drugs. So you're knowingly, you talk about intent. Joey Bag of Donuts' his intent is to make money. He doesn't give a damn people die or not. All he cares about is money. So that's intent. He intentionally is selling those pills and's got people hooked on them, and people are dying because of it.
Okay.
Take him out and hang him from a tree.
Okay. Interesting example.
You know,
God. Interesting example.
What happened? Well, caught me last week.
So that's a very interesting example. This person in this scenario is selling drugs. Okay?
Correct. That's correct.
They're selling drugs. They may not even know it's cut with the fentanyl. Like if they're buying heroin or whatever, it's not cut with the right stuff. Bang, bang, bang. Not even know it. They're selling drugs. In your mind, yeah. Okay? Am I understanding?
Yes.
Cut back to last episode that you all, I know, have all watched. What about we charge too much for a drug that's going to save someone's life? Same deal?
Insulin.
Correct. In this case, do we make it cost too much that it kills somebody? Do we put them away too?
They die from the lack of it? Is that what you're saying?
Right.
Being able to afford it?
Right. It's too expensive. So do we take the boardroom of that place that makes the insulin and say, your greed here has caused so many people to die because of undue hardship on their life, right? They can't afford rent and food and insulin. Take them out.
Maybe somebody should bring that to their attention.
That's the thing. In that world, the guns start going just everywhere because nobody is innocent. Nobody is innocent.
Maybe.
Throw my head back and laugh. Ha 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 ha. Ridiculousness. So that is something, if we're talking about nonviolent crimes being capital punishment worthy, I would say this. Something that would weigh heavily on my mind is a crime that would take away someone's innocence. You know, because that's something they can never get back.
Right.
So
right. It's a fine line, but they wouldn't let me on a jury because
I understand.
I'm like, kill them all and let God sort them out, man. The Life in General podcast does not condone death by, yeah.
I was going to say, it sounds like half of the podcast does condone capital punishment. The other half is skeptical for sure. But it's a scenario, too, where, much to your point, which was a great point, do we let them suffer every day for the rest of their lives in jail or in prison where they can be beaten, sexually assaulted, all sorts of mental things, too. Like they're taking away your number or taking away your name and giving you a number. It's like, holy smokes, man. That sometimes might be a fate worse than just clocking out, because depending on what you believe, it might be better to be on the other side. I mean, who knows?
Right.
So definitely something that's kind of an interesting topic. Great pointing that out. Much love to our fans out there. If there's anything else that you want us to talk about or kind of get into, I'd be more than happy to do it. It's honestly kind of fun to be given something and just say, go. Like, what do y'all think? And then cool, we'll go back and forth with it. So super fun there.
Because we definitely look at things two different ways.
Oh, 1,000%. But if we saw things,
unless we're in the same car, and then it's like, listen, you see that stop sign right there?
Yeah, exactly. Something too there.
When you're driving and I'm leaning over like this, looking, and you go, "What are you looking at?" I just want to see how fast. I just say, because it seemed like we were doing like Mach 5.
It ain't helping you, okay?
I know. It's like he opens the door and goes, "Get out!" We're still doing Mach 3. I can't get out yet.
Rolling out and shit. So, so we've hit our hour mark.
Funny.
Great topic there. Good show. Lots of wild things happening. Safe travels up there when when you come here, right? And then it'll be one of those. We'll see. We'll call it like, can you survive being up here for 2 weeks? So it'll be something where
can you put up with me for 2 weeks? That's going to be the key, because I'm leaving the wife at home and coming by myself.
There you go. yeah, there it is. For sure. We will certainly see what goes down. So have a ride up here for you. You'll be mobile. You'll be moving and grooving. You'll be ready to go.
Thank you.
Kick hostages and take names, and
that's right.
There it is. That's so. Anything else you'd like to discuss?
You've been forewarned.
Yeah. Coming at you.
Coming to a city near you.
Ding dang
turmoil.
Yeah.
Turmoil. Yeah. Tea garden turmoil.
Wow. Right. Yeah. That'd be a great motorcycle club name right there. Like you're having your name be Turmoil. Yeah.
Turmoil.
Holy shit. Yeah. Awesome. Well, we'll leave y'all with that. A little turmoil coming at you here in the very near future. So thank you all very much for watching the Life in General podcast here with Tom and Jay, and we will catch you all in the next episode. See you.
See you.